Hello, this is for some reason one of those videos I have done like 10 takes of, something's gone wrong or... Anyway, I'm just showing you an update on my random prop manager. I've now extended it to fill things with random props, so to bake in props, which is good enough for some purposes. But let me start at the beginning-ish. So you may recall this tool, I can start placement, which clears all the existing props, and you have this list of things, and I've made a few varieties of arrangements for the front room, just for the sake of demonstration. And one thing I've done since the last thing I showed off was the tags, the custom tags. Here we have one. It's basically to encode extra information and also to allow the system to be extended without needing me to make lots more fiddly slate stuff. That's, to be fair, quite a large part of my calculation. And here there's a sort of a code saying the probability of appearing is 25%, and that applies to this thing, the bollard, and you can change that to whatever. That's just free text. You can add in keywords like rich, belongs to a rich house. You can say it only belongs to a rich house, or it never belongs to a rich house. Rich just being an arbitrary term, rich, poor, you can define these things. I might extend it to have scales of things. The idea being that, houses are attached to a street, so you can have the street define certain characteristics which then apply to each of the houses. You can have regions that have characteristics, or you can have, which I'm quite like the idea of, sort of influence maps where you can plonk down an actor saying this is a depress your house price actor with an influence, and the closer you are, the more likely you are to have certain kinds of things in your house. Maybe if your player commits a crime, this appears and lowers the value of the houses around it. So there are consequences to your actions which may be more subtle than you realise. So tags, we'll see that in effect. And these ones have been defined as things that only appear in houses marked as rich. So the round tables are a sign of wealth and power. So that tool you've seen, that works like before, with things like you can get feedback when you click on stuff and set spawn distances and things. But let's move away from that. Here's one I prepared earlier. We can just hide the props, or we can bake them in again. Nothing's really changed. Or a load of houses that I've pre-baked with random values. So you see there's just a natural variety. The variety could be better if I spent a bit more time making the groups, especially the child groups, to add a bit more flavour to the main arrangements. But you can see that, the houses are now noticeably distinct, especially combined with the wallpaper and the random paint colour and so on. And if you don't like what you see, you can change your random seed manually, or just make a new one, and a new one, and so on. And that, you see, spawned with a 25% chance. And this has now produced my rich arrangement, because this group is marked as rich, meaning that, that must mean that this house is marked as rich. So if I take that away, I think this crashed last time, let's see. Now it no longer gives us the round tables of wealth. So you can see it's very quick to do. You can automatically set this up. So that's a rich one. If we say it's only got rich groups, that will now give us tables. If we set that for all these ones, we'll just get a variety of tables like that. And if we don't like the arrangement, we'll just get a new one, and so on. And we could also instead say this house will never have things in it associated with wealth, and so it will be. And that's kind of it for now. So things I need to do is to put in the spawn system where the spawning is triggered by entering triggers. In one variation, opening a door will trigger the creation of the actors. In some rooms, the front room probably needs to have some actors there all the time, but back room, could be empty until somebody goes in the front door. And in a game, the front doors will default to shut, and as the player opens it, he'll wait until everything's spawned before it allows the door to open. That'll be hopefully seamless and quick. So I've got some ideas like that. And the custom tags, you can do things like for the building, a 25% custom chance of appearing means that the props have a 25% chance of appearing at all. So not terribly useful, but the tags do things. And they can be extended. So another idea is if you have a musician, you can have groups that are associated with musicians, so maybe some guitars, freestanding guitars, which could be subgroups, of stuff. They would have a plus musician, which means that only if there is a musician associated with the house would they appear. Or not, could have them appearing anyway. So there's a lot you can do just by setting up the data, but now there are the tools to do that. And one other thing I'm going to do is to replace these windows and doors with groups, which is entirely doable. If you have one group, it will always appear unless you've set your P tag, which also, you can, it'll understand that. If I set it to 80%, will it spawn? Oh, that's a rare one. Here's where it's not going to work. 90%, surely. Oh, it's the wrong. Yeah, it's the wrong house. I don't set up that house. But you can do all that stuff. Yeah, so I think that's it. So the spawning system, I put the windows and the doors in, and it'll just help with that kind of stuff. So I have put in the windows in the blueprint, but one of the original reasons I made this system was to deal with blocks of flats and things, so that all these windows will be generated with each floor, and it will allow for some variation just built into it if I hook into the system. And each flat can be furnished using this system, and so you get unique furnished flats spawned as desired, spawned as needed, and hopefully that will create a very interesting world that will be efficiently drawn. Anyway, I've rambled on enough now. Thank you for listening. Goodbye. Captain's Log Supplemental. I just thought maybe I should talk a bit about the internals of this. So being a modder, I want stuff I can put in my maps. That means no C++ at runtime, and I'm not entirely sure to what extent I need to clean things of C++ before runtime. Now I have C++ code doing a lot of the legwork with the custom tag parsing, and this toolbar, I think as far as I'm aware, has to be C++, but it is anyway, and that's now done. So I've had to divide things in perhaps weird ways. So I've got two main things that are of interest. This is the way I've done it. Could be done better, probably another way. I have a blueprint class, which I call asset container, and this provides a bit of a front end to stuff, and it is an actor, and it has an interface, and I can't remember exactly why all this happens, but this, apart from anything else, it just standardizes some of this stuff. I'm not sure this is going to stay like this, but it standardizes some of the building stuff I want to put into my game, but it may also be useful for modding stuff. So it's kind of like a dwelling, generally speaking. It's something that will have the random props, so it has as a component this thing which is called the wrong thing now. But it's a random prop manager actor component. So to make something use the random prop system, the idea is you just add this component and it does most of the work, but you have to pass some stuff onto it because it's a bit silly the way. I don't think you can. There's some stuff that doesn't work on Blueprint components that works on Blueprint stuff like message handling, and there's some stuff that So in C++ I could probably get around this, but the runtime stuff has to be all Blueprint. And so with this, you can, I have the system where, in combination with some actors that define streets and house numbers and things, which I will be improving, you can ask house numbers to tell you where they are. So that's a custom house name. Dungamen 5 Cemetery Road. This house will be 9 Cemetery Road. It allows you to have proper addresses generated that are also possible to show on a map specific to the house they're in. So a navigation system could use this in various ways. I digress. This is the actual component, and as a class, it is an actor component, and it has two interfaces. One of these is a blueprint-based interface for allowing the blueprints to talk to each other, and the other one is a C++ interface, which I use to call the sort of helper functions, the utility functions in C++ that generate the list of props. So in the asset container, you have bake the props, just passes that on to the component. So you need a bit of work to get that passed on. And then here the bake props, still a work in progress, calls this C++ function, which identifies who's calling it, which is used to get the relative offsets for all the props, the random seed, of course, and the custom tags that are built into the building. And it stores the resulting prop list, and here's just a diagnostic, and then after it's got the prop list, it generates the actual actors, which it passes back to C++ to turn the list of props into actual spawned objects, which is then passed back a list of the actual actor references. So, if you're interested, this is the utility function called by the blueprints. And so you've got your bake random props, and that's what the reference to the actor turns into. Random seed, custom tags, and this thing is, you get these glorious bits of syntax in the UE4 C++, returns the prop list. That didn't work out how I hoped it would do, but it sort of works on the blueprint side. And the spawn random props is what turns that list into actual objects. And then there's sort of private stuff that's called within the code. It doesn't have to be in the right format. So there's some limitations on what you can do. It's not so easy to set default things for things. I've got a whole lot of stuff for passing the custom tags, turning them into machine readable blocks, some random seed stuff. So that's the utility thing. And under the hood, so bake random props does things like it breaks down the custom tag for the building, which I call the actor in this context. They see if your probability of appearing is less than 100, it'll do a check, and if you fail the check, it will just leave. Gets class names, so internally the data, let's go back here, internally the data is stored in 3 tables. There is one table for the groups, I think I've shown this before, and this is just a data table. You can see all the fields here. This follows the format of a C++ struct. There's a one-to-one correspondence between C++ structs and UE4 structs, and that is defined in here. So here is a struct of the props that need to be generated. So this is passed back to the blueprints, and it has the name of the class, whether it's a static mesh, the transform relative to the current actor, and I haven't done this yet, but whether you make a blocking volume, that's to help AI. If actors haven't spawned in, it'll keep AI out of the areas where the actors are. And the spawn rules is an enumerator. There's a certain way you do it to make it work in UE4, which is this t numbers byte. You can't just pass an enumerator. And spawn rules, they're up here somewhere. Somewhere up here. Spawn rules. So this is how you write enums in C++ in a UE4 compatible way. So there's lots of these macros everywhere, which make it quite hard to work with when you first start. So, I mean, I'm terrible at this and I hate it, but maybe there's some scope for a here's how you start in C++ in UE4 tutorial. Well, I'm learning as I go. I'm terrible at it, but you know, it doesn't look quite like normal C++, and some normal stuff just doesn't work. So this is all, you know, very specific to UE4. You've got to look it up. The documentation is somewhat wanting, I would say, generally speaking. Another macro, but with these macros, this turns into something that's readable within UE4, and it sort of encodes the metadata so that you can do a lot of clever stuff with it. And this is the format of that table I just showed you, where you've got the asset container class name, the unique group ID, the group name, and the parent group ID if it's present, selection weight, another enumerator with the spawn rules. And so if I go back to here, this is each row is just one of those C++ structs. We have the actor data, so a very similar table, but it's got again your actor class name. It links with the group ID and a unique ID for the actor. It's unsatisfactory that you have these near duplicates, but the way that tables work in UE4 is somewhat limited. It's not like a SQL table. You can't do SQL queries, so you've got to do that kind of stuff, I think. The transform, so it's all just fairly simple plain data, and the last one is the custom tag data table, which defines all the types of custom tags. So you have just, like I said, it's very flexible. Perhaps it's mad, perhaps it's stupid, but you have, you know, sort of types of things and a parameter, which can be a string or it can be an integer. And tokens are just sort of descriptors of houses or people who own the houses. So there's two different kinds of data there really, but they're all work in a similar way. And you have synonyms for these things. So there you go. So that's sort of under the hood. There's a lot more. And I haven't even shown you the. There's the toolkit. I mean, this is what's under the hood on the edit toolkit. And as you see, it's taken quite a bit of work. And this is with me blindly finding my way with poor documentation. I mean, I could have got it done a lot quicker if I knew what I was doing. But it's done. And Slate, I mean, this is Slate. It's praised for its flexibility. I can't stand it. I've spent so long just banging my head against a wall. It's still not how I want it to be, but it's fine for now. So there you go. That's a little bit more information. Hope that's of interest to somebody somewhere. I'll leave you now.